Hi folks, welcome back to the Horde. Another whole beautiful day thing going on here. Look at it out here. I can't believe it's beyond the middle of November. One of my subscribers has asked me a couple of times about the portable CDI box, Corey, and I indicated to him, which is, you know, the portable CDI box is cool, but I got even something better cooking when it comes to a CDI box. And what I have here is the Casoli. This is a high performance CDI box. It's for a GY6 and it's the DC version, 12 volts direct current powered. And there is the there's the ignition coil, the spark coil that goes with it. They're kind of a match set. What I did is, because I want to build a wire harness for this thing, I extended the wires pretty long. And by the way, a great way to get all the different color wires that you like, you basically strip a wiring harness out of a car and then just recycle the wire. So, looking at this whole rat's nest, by this time you got a headache and you go, yeah, like I could do that. Well, actually you can. So, for a 300EX or any bike, this is the way the setup works. Blue, right? The blue wire from this guy, right? See the blue wire? Sometimes blue and white, but the blue wire, not hard. Goes to the pulse generator. The pulse generator is a blue and white wire right there. So you got 1 out of 5 done. Red wire goes to positive 12 volts DC, right? Not hard. Red wire. And I'm gonna hook it up to, where'd the red wire go? I actually have my meter going through it, but eventually I'm gonna hook it up to the 12 volts DC, right there. That's it. So red wire, 12 volts DC. The green wire from the box, right? Green wire, right? That's ground, and ground has to go to engine case. So green wire, ground goes to engine case. See right there, right? Engine case, very important. It also, the green wire has to go to the green side of the ignition coil, the spark coil, and the green wire has to go to the negative of the battery, right? So, engine case, green side of the coil, battery. That hard, right? The negative side of the battery. Last, yellow wire. That's the positive active side of the ignition coil. That's the that's where you're actually powering the ignition coil. Remember, this thing has basically some inputs. The inputs are ground, plus 12, and when should I spark? And this thing has an output. The output is the yellow wire, which is the spark, right? That steps it up, creates the spark. Black wire. Black wire, very, very tempting to put it to the battery. Don't do that. Listen to me one more time. Let me tell you, don't do that. If you do that, punch yourself in the face, disconnect it, and see if the bike will start. Alright? So don't do that. Drew your whole wiring schematic here. Here's your battery, 12 volts. Huge ground. Why do you have a huge ground? One side of it goes to the pulse generator, one side of it goes to the CDI, right? Green, pulse generator, green, right? Green to the pulse generator, green to the spark coil. I drew in a little spark plug here, right? Obviously one side of the spark plug is ground because it goes to the engine case, and there you go, yellow, blue, green, red. all that difficult, right? You guys could see that. I'm gonna try to remember to put the links in there for this thing and this thing. Normally you buy them as a match set, somewhere around 25 bucks. These things, I bought like 8 of them. eBay, like $2 each. And you should have a cool switch. In my case, I don't have a cool switch right here. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm basically, red wire goes through my meter, goes to this thing, right? I just powered up this thing, right? I just powered up the CDI unit. And you could see I have this in the wrong place. There you go. You could see this uses like 700 milliamps, right? Because I'm on the 10 amps right here. And 10 amps. So 1, 2, 3. Or this uses about 70 milliamps to just idle, right? You're not asking anything from it. If you fire it up, going to be hard to turn the choke off and do the throttle and the camera and everything all at once, but anyway, so you guys kind of get the idea of what we're up to. You could also see that when this thing is wound tight, you can use more than a ½ an amp worth of power. I mean, ½ an amp, 12 volts, you're looking at about 6 watts. But these are like the crappiest batteries in the world. The Value Pack Thunderbolt. Harbor Freight typically gives them away with a coupon, and that's probably where I got these from. But if you decide to power yourself with these Thunderbolt batteries, you might want to put the whole stick in your pocket. I guess there's 24 of them here. Because what's going to happen is you're probably going to get a good distance from home, and the battery's going to die, and you're going to, like, you know, be stuck walking. The best thing to really have happen is that your 12-volt ignition system is functioning, and you could you actually have a battery on board that you're charging. If you don't have that, you can once again find yourself walking home when your batteries die. Anyway, I hope you guys find this helpful. If you decide to go with the traditional ignition system, they make these in 12 volts also, and the plug more or less looks the same, but they do make these in 12 volts, and as a matter of fact, I have one in here. These use quite a bit less power. If anybody's really interested, I guess I could fire it up. But they do use less power, and you'll go a bit longer. You could tell by the way this thing fired up, and you know, this thing kicks a really nice hot spark. Really love that. Chances are, when I set this all up, I'm going to want to, you could see the aluminum case on this. I assume because if you're beating it about, it produces some heat. I'm probably going to set up this thing on the end of a wire and put it someplace safe where it could get a little bit of air, but at the same time not get all trashed up with mud. The batteries, I'm going to, for this thing, I'm going to run it on the 12 volt ignition system. I'm going to put a real battery in it and run it on her own 12 volt ignition system. So this won't be necessary. That'll be gone. From a switch point of view, I'm hoping to put on the handlebars here a key switch. I think I have another couple floating around the hoard, so that'll be the key switch. And these things get mounted right here, right, and it's got a little hole through it, so it could go on right there. So setting this up, you can actually be really nice and neat. When I put this together, I didn't measure the wire out. When I took the wiring harness apart, I deliberately tried to keep all the wires as long as possible, and that's because I'm cheap. So when I took this apart, I tried to keep all the wires as long as possible, and then I put them together on, I soldered them and put the shrink wrap on them, this wonderful stuff, and then I put a shrink wrap over the top of them. Also, when I put the wires together, I kind of staggered them so that that would be hooked up here, then the next one would be a little distance up, and the next one would be even a little right, so that just in case they broke through the insulation, they're not all bundled together right like that. You really don't want to bundle them all together like that for a couple of reasons. First of all, where you bundle and solder them all together like that, you end up with a huge stack of wires, where if you kind of stagger them, the shrink wrap goes on better, and the outside shrink wrap goes on better. Once again, I left the wires as long as possible because I figure I'll just trim them to length and I'm not wasting anything, because I basically took them out of here and left them as long as I possibly could, and whatever I cut off, I'll just put in my little electrical kit over there and be done with it. I had been catching many mice in the mouse report. Typically one a day, day after day after day. So what I did is I upped the trap count. I put 3 traps down in the basement and 3 traps up here. And now it's to the point where I'm catching nothing. So probably as the mice come in now, I will catch them. There's no horde of mice living in here anymore, or if they are, at least they're staying away from the doors at this point. But there does not appear to be a horde of mice living in here. Now I'm just going to whack them on their way in, which is a good thing, right? The last thing you need, 2 mice come in. The next thing you have 12 mice. And you wait a little longer than that if you don't figure it out, then you have 100 mice, right? Half of those 12 mice produce another 12, right? Plus the 12 I just told you about. You got a lot of mice, so you really got to control your mouse population. I guess that's it. Once again, if there are questions, please ask. Corey, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you make use of this information and build something cool. You could see, once again, using that high performance model with a nice long wire on it, you can put it in a good spot, and you can leave the coil where it should be, and if you power it by the 12 volts of an onboard battery and use the switches or add switches so that the OEM switches, you either add an OEM switch or hopefully you have an OEM switch. If you use the OEM switches, right, you're really in pretty decent shape now, right? You everything could go together well. It just takes a little talent to put it all together. With these wire harnesses too, like you guys can see, it's got the plastic outside, right. If you kind of hang on to some of that too, you can do a little better job. I mean, this comes off a tractor. I mean, you could use one of these, theoretically key start your bike, but I think it'll be better to use the 12 volts and the high performance ignition and all the OEM switches. That'll be better. All right, folks, once again, if there are questions, please ask. Folks, I'd like you all to keep your feet down, keep your head up, get yourself organized for winter, and get out there and have some fun. Remember to have a few laughs. Life is short. You don't want it getting by on you. Take care now, folks. Bye.